Hey everyone, happy Saturday, July 6th. Welcome back to Weather on the Go. All your weather coverage. We're going to be talking about heat and humidity building across the United States as we go through the weekend and into next week with plenty of rain chances, especially for the eastern part of the United States, fire weather concerns and dry weather across the western U.S., and the hurricane that is going to be impacting Texas and much of the south as we go in toward the late portion of this weekend and early next week as it makes landfall in coastal Texas by Monday. So in today's weather forecast, let's start off here with your 500 millibar geopotential height. Basically just fancy wording for just showing you where the ridge of high pressure is. And you can see we have a very strong high pressure over California and Nevada here today and this weekend, and the high pressure system extending across the southeast coast. Look it up to the north. We got a little bit of a trough and a dip in the jet stream across the north, so temperatures are very pleasant up here this weekend. And looking at all of these heat headlines across the west, basically the entire state of Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Idaho, California, Arizona, and Utah, we have widespread either red flag warnings, excessive heat watches and warnings, and also heat advisories across those areas. We also have heat advisories extending from the northeast down here to the southeast coast, and also some excessive heat warnings across the Delmarva region down into North Carolina as well. Looking at high temperatures this afternoon, look at where all the heat is. There's no surprise that we have widespread heat headlines across the west and across the southeast coast here, as widespread highs in the 90s, if not well into the triple digits this afternoon can be expected. Look to the north though, beautiful across the northern tier of the United States, across the northern Rockies, northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and southern Canada as well. Definitely get outdoors and enjoy the wonderful temperatures, and that will extend even into Sunday afternoon across the north. The heat will really crank up even further across the west. California back well into the triple digits there across the Sacramento Valley Sunday afternoon. More triple digits across Texas, and 90s across the southeast as we go into tomorrow afternoon. With all the heat building across the west and the drier weather, we don't have a lot of rainfall on the way. We have some critical fire weather concerns, especially up here in towards southern portions of Idaho here, and definitely seeing even elevated fire weather concerns from Oregon in east-southeastward all the way to western Colorado today. Critical fire weather concerns across southern and southeastern Utah tomorrow. Elevated concerns from southwestern portions of Idaho all the way to northwestern New Mexico. Be watching out for that. And if you do go grilling outdoors, campfire, stuff like that, really do be paying attention to that dry air out west. Now, we also have the heat building, and this is going to give us storm energy across the middle of the country today and tomorrow. So that is going to lead to another round of severe weather across the middle of the country. A slight risk. This is a level 2 out of 5 on the risk scale here from Nebraska down into western Kansas and the Oklahoma panhandle as we go into later today. The main threat here is going to be damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. Some hail and hailstones could be over 2 inches in diameter from Nebraska down into northwest Kansas here, and a small 2% chance of a tornado from North Platte eastward through the Hastings region, really right along the I-80 corridor in Nebraska. So this afternoon, we have a cluster of showers and storms developing across central and eastern Nebraska. This would be providing us the threat for winds over 60 miles per hour, and that elevated, potentially over 2-inch diameter hailstones and an isolated tornado threat that will start to travel further off to the south and east into maybe a broken line of some showers and storms this evening. Additional storms developing into the Nebraska panhandle will dive southeast into central and western Kansas late this evening and after midnight, and that'll extend over into early Saturday morning. Here are your rainfall totals here today and tonight. You can see the heaviest rains from the upper Midwest down here into the central plains, and it's spotty as well. Not everybody will see storms, and if you get under one of those stronger thunderstorm clusters, rainfall amounts could be up to 3/4 of an inch, locally up to an inch here in some areas, so some runoff of water is possible on area roadways. Going into Sunday, we have that slight risk, level 2 out of 5, risk for severe weather down into central and western Oklahoma and the northeast portion of the Texas panhandle as we go into Sunday. Main threat again, winds over 60 miles per hour, some quarter-size hail, and the threat for tornadoes, especially along and west there of the Oklahoma City area toward, say, Elk City, Lawton and Fort Sill will be keeping a very close eye on you. And we actually have tropical induced tornado threat that we're going to be talking about here momentarily. Down near Houston and Corpus Christi, we have a 5% chance of a tornado there into eastern portions of Texas, the eastern coastline there of Texas along the Gulf Coast. So Sunday afternoon, those scattered showers and storms developing in Kansas. Those will drop south and eastward here. Maybe a mesoscale convective system, one of those bigger, stronger rushes of wind on the leading edge of the storm, some hail, maybe a spin-up tornado into Sunday evening, and then that just continues. I think some heavier rainfall as this festers around into early Monday morning will be likely, and you can see central Oklahoma City there, all the way down here into Norman, say the Lawton, Fort Sill area, all the way down to Wichita Falls, Texas. A couple inches of rainfall will be possible, and there's the heavy rainfall leading into the coastline of Texas, and that, my friends, is Tropical Storm Beryl that is actually getting ever closer to the United States here. And a little bit of a closer look at this, the convection, the thunderstorm activity is really starting to blossom with this system as it starts to reorganize, as it's over the open waters of the Western Gulf here at this hour. And looking here, we do have hurricane watches posted from northeast Mexico up the coastline there of Texas here into the Brownsville area, into Corpus Christi, up toward Victoria, Texas, and even up toward the Houston area as well. And the latest guidance here from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, has this as a strong tropical storm moving here to the west-northwest at 12 miles per hour as a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Will remain a tropical storm at least through Sunday afternoon, re-strengthening potentially to a Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane as we go into the day on Monday, as it makes landfall likely early Monday afternoon here somewhere between Houston and Corpus Christi, and then a tropical storm for East Texas, and then a tropical depression as we go into the middle and end of the week as it moves up toward the Arklatex and into the mid-Mississippi Valley region. So looking at this here today, there's the system into the Western Gulf. It's going to start to reorganize as it moves northwestward. It's going to strengthen a little bit. Those shelf waters very close to the Texas coastline there is very warm, so we're going to see that re-strengthen, making landfall here Monday afternoon into portions of the Houston area, potentially down toward Corpus Christi. Tyler, Texas is an area that could see some pretty heavy flash flooding as we go into the day on Monday, especially later in the day. System starts to speed up. I think this model is a little bit too fast, but I think this moves up into Arkansas by Tuesday, and into Wednesday moves further to the north and east toward the Ohio River Valley. Very heavy rainfall. Significant flooding will be likely with this system here from Corpus Christi to Houston. Widespread rainfall totals here of 8 to 12 inches, locally higher than that, up over a foot of rain will be possible, mainly along and east of I-35. That's where the heaviest rainfall will be. So Tyler, Texas, again, will be an area to watch for some very heavy flooding rains. We have a slight to a moderate risk for flash flooding. So scattered to numerous flooding events will be possible here, especially across coastal Texas, but into eastern Texas as well. And note, the Dallas-Fort Worth area is only in a marginal risk for flash flooding. It's east of I-35 toward the Tyler area, Texarkana, where we start to see the heavier rainfall and flooding prospects over there. Also, in addition to that, we have some storm surge. This is going to bring some very strong wind. So this is also going to do potentially some canopy and tree damage as we go in towards coastal Texas over the next few days. And you can see beach erosion as well with storm surge, 2 to 4 foot storm surge from High Island all the way down to St. Louis Pass. 3 to 5 feet there, all the way down just south of Houston there, all the way toward Corpus Christi and the Corpus Christi Bay area, and then 2 to 4 feet from Baffin Bay all the way down to the mouth of the Rio Grande Valley. Looking here into next week in general, we have some cooler weather in the middle of the country that continues, some warmer weather out east, but the real heat continues to remain out west, but that will start to become more progressive later in the week, and what I mean by that, that'll start to shift further to the east across the United States. So early next week, there's the heat across the east, but the real intense stuff is out west here from Oregon and Washington State, the Cascades region, down into the Sacramento Valley here and into the desert southwest. As we go into the middle of next week, the intense heat is on the move a little bit further to the north and east. You can see up into portions of Canada like Manitoba here, into portions of Alberta, Saskatchewan. We're going to see a lot of that heat building into the middle of next week. And then later next week, some of that heat into Manitoba spreads over into Ontario, but most of the United States is pretty hot as we go into later next week outside of the Great Lakes region. So we're going to be heating up across the United States. Any rainfall prospects into next week is really going to be tied to this tropical wave that moves in as a hurricane into Texas, weakening to a tropical storm and eventually a tropical depression as it moves into the mid-Mississippi Valley, and that's going to spread rain up into the Ohio River vicinity, all the way up here into portions of Lake Erie, Lake Huron, and into the Northeast as well. Very dry out west, folks, so it's going to be dry. That's why we have the fire weather concerns we talked about out here. Here are the rainfall amounts over the next 5 days going into next week from Monday, July 8th through Friday, July 12th out west. Hardly a drop of rain out here, so definitely very dry. Watching out for those continued fire weather concerns and increasing drought as we go into next week. Middle of the country, the northern part is pretty much sparred from some heavy rainfall, although we could have a couple of storms. I think the southern United States with the heavier tropical moisture will see a few inches of rain there. And then the eastern U.S., a lot of us will be seeing some very heavy rain and then maybe some spotty activity from Dixie Alley over here towards portions of Tennessee. We'll be keeping an eye on that, but the Northeast could get in on some flooding activity later next week, Thursday, Friday timeframe, as that system speeds up and moves through the Ohio Valley and eventually entering in towards the Northeast. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel here at Weather on the Go. We'll keep you updated on everything from heat and humidity to severe weather to Hurricane Beryl making landfall in Texas. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, give it a like down below, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Saturday out there.